Welcome to another edition of the D&D Morning Show.
We're back at it. We got a new show for you.
Today we're talking about complex carbs versus
simple carbs.
Nice moves. So Dorothy's going to have a quote for us. We've got a recipe for you regarding carbs. Carb quote. It's a carb show.
It's a carb show.
So let's start off with a fun fact.
So the fun fact today involves myself. Since we're talking about carbs, Drew thought it would be a good idea to bring up the fact that, hi, my name is Dorothy and I'm a carboholic.
It's true. Dorothy loves carbs. Mm-hmm. Any type of carbs.
Any type of carbs.
Do you have any favorite carbs? All of them?
All of them. I don't know what to say other than that.
Like if it's like popcorn, for example, Dorothy will have try to have 6 bowls of it. Giant bowls. I don't mean cups. I mean giant bowls.
No, that's not true. We do have one giant bowl though, and I'll give Drew a couple scoops, and then be like, "Well, there's yours. This is mine." And Drew always makes fun of me for eating it so fast.
Yeah, we actually have to have 2 separate bowls. Otherwise, I'll stick my hand in the bowl twice, and then I'll stick it in again, and there'll be nothing in there. Like, what happened? Dorothy has like popcorn on her face and on her shirt. I'm like, what happened?
I like carbs.
That's what she says. I like carbs. Or if it's like, what else, pasta, Dorothy will try to have more than me. And I'm like, Dorothy, I weigh almost twice as much as you. You
are not a 200-pound man, Dorothy.
You don't need that. She's like, I like carbs. Crackers. Bread.
Yes.
Lots of carbs, Dorothy. Well, it's a weakness.
It is a weakness.
The whole carb macronutrient. I feel like it's a big category.
Carbs?
Yeah.
It has a lot of things in it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it really takes some effort on my part because I'm a carboholic to rein it in. Rein it in? Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Reel it in?
It's reel it in. I think reel it in.
Reel it in.
It's kind of the same when I'm like, is it curb or curve?
Curb your hunger.
Curb your appetite.
Hunger? Appetite? I don't know.
Anywho, you want to get into the main topic?
Yes.
All right.
Let's talk about carbs.
Carbs. So we're going to
Let's talk about carbs, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about
all the good things. All the
bad things about the carbs.
Are you good?
That was fun.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the difference between complex carbs
and simple carbs.
There you go.
There I am.
Hey, thanks for joining us. So Dorothy's going to focus on one. I'm going to focus on the other, and hopefully you get the whole aspect of the difference between the two, and why one's better for you and one we should probably stay away from.
I think we should start with simple carbs.
Sure.
Is that where you were thinking of starting?
It doesn't matter to me.
All right. So you just want me to go ahead?
Let's jump into it.
So, simple carbs. Simple carbs are the carbs that break down or digest super quickly in our body, which means which results in them turning into sugar faster. So the simple carbs are the carbs that we really want to stay away from, or that we want to have in moderation only once in a while. It's not a carb that we will want to include in our meals every day. So the easiest way for me to explain how you know is a simple carb is anything white. For example, white potatoes, white pasta, white rice, white bread. All of those things are going to be simple carbs. So those are the ones that we want to stay away from because they really aren't providing any nutrients to our bodies. So they are digesting super quickly and turning into sugars really fast.
And they're usually highly refined for the most part.
Right.
And I think the digestion thing is the biggest part, especially when it comes to energy. So you'll see a spike in your blood sugar levels when you have white types of carbs, for example. And you don't see that because they process so quickly. They process in the sugar, they spike our blood sugar levels. We get that boost of energy, there's always a crash after.
That's right.
So instead of that, we have complex carbs. My turn?
Which Drew's gonna get into. Complex carbs and go!
So complex carbs are pretty much the opposite, meaning when you have white carbs, they digest very quickly. Slow carbs are dark carbs, and they digest much slower. So when we look at dark carbs, we have slow, sustainable energy because usually they're high in fiber, and that fiber is what helps digest in our bodies. So when we look at dark carbs, we're looking at sweet potatoes. We're looking at breads are a tough one because breads are in large part low quality types of carbs or substances in general. But if you're looking at breads, we're looking at whole grain, sprouted, whole grain, whole wheat, brown. So those are challenging because we're not like big bread people. We don't recommend bread on a regular basis. And then I said sweet potato, breads. We're looking at whole grain rice. We're looking at what else?
If you're going for a pasta or having a pasta, you'll want to look for brown, like whole wheat pasta, or even like grain like pasta.
Yeah, they have like lentil pasta now. They have quinoa pasta now. Now understand that those are processed, much like the white types of carbs that we're talking about here. Those are highly processed. Like bread is processed, pasta is processed. We can get into crackers. We didn't really talk about crackers.
We didn't talk about crackers.
You can find better quality crackers, but they usually have tons of ingredients, which means they would be unhealthy for you.
And they would more likely be in the simple carb category.
Right.
Crackers.
So when you're looking at carbs in general, we want you to focus on the dark colored carbs. Now, that's not to say never have white potatoes, for example. If you're growing them yourself, the nutrient value is much different, and also if they're grown locally, that's a whole different type of conversation. But you can have those types of foods, those type of carbs once in a while, but for the most part, 90%, we want you to have dark carbs in your diet.
Right. And carbs, we often talk about improving our energy level, and carbs are a means of creating or gaining more energy if we stick to the complex carbs.
Right.
The simple carbs are going to make us feel drowsy and tired and cause most likely digestive issues for lots of us. But if we stick to the complex carbs, then that is going to make us feel better. It's going to make us have more energy and just stronger in general.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all there is. That's the simplest way that we can explain simple carbs and complex carbs and why you should stick to complex and try to avoid simple as often as possible.
That's right.
All right, and we want to talk about CTP here just briefly and why we choose it as a complex carb and something that you should be implementing into your diet. So quinoa, for example, it's actually a seed, not so much a grain. Most people consider it like a grain, like oat, for example.
Right.
So it's actually a seed, so it processes much differently. It's a complex carb, so it takes longer to digest, which means it gives you that sustainable energy that we're talking about when it comes to complex carbs.
I'm actually surprised we didn't mention quinoa when we were listing our complex carbs, but now's a good time to talk about it with CTP.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have your healthy fats, for example. You have your high in fiber, high in iron, and I think the fiber, the high fiber content is what's most beneficial because a lot of people deal with digestive issues.
Right.
So gas, bloating, indigestion. When you deal with those on a regular basis, you usually don't have enough fiber in your diet. So that's why Complete Truth Protein is a big way to help people improve their digestion.
That's right, and one of the number one things people tell us when they start using CTP is they can't believe how much energy they have, and that is in large part because of the combination of quinoa and hemp seeds, and quinoa being slow digesting or complex carb. It gives us that energy boost.
Absolutely. And the other thing is the quality of nutrients. So the type of nutrients you're putting in your body. So sometimes people are so excited, they write us, they're like, I can't believe how much energy I have. Like, what are you putting in your product? What is it? And we're like,
It's food.
yeah. I was like, sometimes I wish we had like a secret ingredient, or we had like the magic pill, but we don't. We have food.
We have food.
So when you put good quality nutrients in your body, mainly whole food, that turns into energy much easier. So our body can utilize, digest, and absorb whole food at a much higher rate than highly processed food. So when you have a product like Complete Truth Protein that's just made from food or with food, then it turns over really quickly into energy, and you have that quick boost, which most people want. They just don't want the crash with it.
And you feel great. Like Drew is talking about, these kinds of foods will help you improve your digestion and gain energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also have, what do we have first? We have a quote and
I'm going to do a recipe first and then a quote.
All right.
So Drew, you just hang tight. I'll take over here.
Just sit back and relax. I'm with you guys.
So I wanted to talk about a recipe today that has a complex carb in it, because we were talking about the health benefits of complex carbs. So a really traditional, I guess, recipe that would include a simple carb is shepherd's pie, right? The white potatoes, the ground beef, and all of that. So I want to talk about that today and how it's easy to convert a traditional recipe like that into something a bit more healthier, but still have that home cooked kind of feel. So instead of the white potatoes, try using a sweet potato. And you boil your sweet potatoes till they're super mushy. Or I prefer steaming them actually, as opposed to boiling them, so until they're super mushy. And then you can mash them with some fresh garlic, some fresh dill, some coconut oil, and make them super creamy. Sometimes we eat them just like that. They're delicious, aren't they?
You can put a little milk in there.
I'll put a little almond milk in there and make them super duper creamy.
Yeah.
So that's how you could make your mashed potatoes for your shepherd's pie. Drew and I choose to use baked beans over ground beef in our shepherd's pie. You could also use ground turkey or ground chicken if you're looking to
make it a bit cleaner.
Leaner. And so then you just have your layers. You can put your beans or your ground meat on the bottom. And then in the middle, put all kinds of sauteed veggies. We like to do mushrooms and peppers and onions. And we put all kinds of that good stuff in the middle. Then put your mashed sweet potatoes on the top. And that right there is a great meal. It contains it has your healthy carbs and your protein and your veggies for your fiber, so it's a good nutritious meal in a way that you can transform a traditional meal into something a bit healthier.
Yeah, the traditional format isn't the healthiest, so Dorothy made this combination for everyone that may be wanting to avoid meat, for example, or may want a bit cleaner type of shepherd's pie. And it's also great for the entire family because you can make this big pot of it and then everyone gets as much as they want, and usually there's enough left over for lunch the next day.
Yeah, I prefer to bake mine in a pan over that pot.
I think you know what I meant.
I do. But we made it for our friends or maybe our family not too long ago, and they were surprised. Like, at first when something's different, people are usually a little bit like, not sure about this, but they were surprised at how great it tastes.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a delicious one.
So we have a quote to end off with, and Dorothy's got that ready for you
right now. It's kind of a funny one that goes along with my carboholic comment, but the quote says, "I think my soulmate might be carbs."
It's very true.
For me.
I think a lot of people are in the same boat, though. Sometimes people just love carbs and love different forms of it in every way possible.
What would it be for you? What would your soulmate of food be?
I don't know.
You don't know? I put him on the spot, you see, now you can think about it.
I guess some type of plants. I don't know.
Boo.
That's no fun. How about chocolate bars and pop? That's better.
No.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the D&D Morning Show.
We always enjoy doing our show, and without listeners and without people like you out there watching, it wouldn't be much fun just sitting here next to Drew. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next show.
See you guys.
Bye.